Hold on here. Okay, I think we're working now. Yes, we're working. Okay, so yes, let's try this again. Hello everyone, this is John Crate, and we are going to be doing some fantasy baseball prep. I've got an AL only auction going next Saturday. And so I just kind of wanted to get this started. Maybe anyone else will find it useful. But like I said, it's a little different. It's going to be AL only, which is my preferred way of doing it. I like mono leagues. Big fan of mono leagues. That's been my my preference for a long time. That was my league that I had going for. I joined a league that my father was in. That he was a part of the initial group that started it. And so this league started back in 88 or whatever year it was when the first official the rotisserie fantasy baseball book came out. They started at the year that book came out. And it was a bunch of guys that my dad either knew through work or through, he was a big fast pitch baseball player, so guys through that he met through baseball or bowling. I mean, it was a bunch of guys. The league was just, like I said, it had been around forever. I joined up with him and was able to be on his team because he was on a team with his best friend. But then his best friend got cancer, and he survived. I mean, he's still alive, but it took its toll on him, and he just does not have the energy that he used to have. Even back then, he had just finished all of his treatment, and he was just so out of it, and so he just couldn't commit to it anymore. Because this was a pretty intense league. Like, it was, it had player contracts, and it had every week bids. It had just lots of different things that made it a very intensive league. So he just couldn't commit to it anymore. And then plus, especially because then it started going more and more online, and he's an old-fashioned hippie type, him and his brother, and they're not big on technology so much, and so he was having trouble keeping up with all the changes that were happening when everything was going online. Like, he didn't even have email access outside of his job, and his job wasn't like an office job. It was just he worked at a school doing a lot of lunchroom stuff and a lot of coaching. So it's not like he had access to computers anyway. This is completely off topic. So I joined the league when he decided he couldn't do it anymore. So my dad and I were a team for a long time. And it was an AL only rotisserie style league, and the league had been around for so long that the two divisions were actually named after members of the league who had died. But then, the cats are having a little spat. You're fine. Come on, break it up. They're not even gonna touch each other. And come on, guys. Yeah, it sounds bad, but they don't even touch each other. It's all posturing. I can count on one hand the number of times they've actually come into contact when they're spatting, when they're going after each other like this. Most of the time they're just meowing at each other or chasing each other, and there's no contact. I get it, Mittens. Jeez. I get it. You're upset she won't play with you. So, where was I? So, right before the league shut down for the COVID season, for 2020 season, because by the time the game started up again, it was like, is it really worth it to get it all together for like a game that's essentially for, a fantasy season that's basically a third of a season? And it just wasn't. And it didn't help that another member of our group had died, a very beloved member. Everybody loved the guy. He, to this day, he's still missed. So, we were down to a team anyway. And then once 2021 started up, it became the commissioner of the league, or I should say the two guys who were on a team and were the commissioners of the league, sent out an email and they're like, I found that my life was much more enjoyable in my retirement when I wasn't running this league. So we're out. And nobody else stepped up. So I said, I'll run the league. That's fine. Like, I just want to keep this going. I think it's great. I love this league. And nobody else responded. Everyone else was fine to just let it die. So I've been looking for a league for a while. And this is a new one. It's an 8-team AL only rotisserie with 6 categories on each side. I'll have to look it up. I'll bring that up so I can see which ones they are again. And there's no keepers so far. But this is one of those deals where it's like, this is the first year of the league, and the guy running it didn't want to commit to anything too intensive to get people into it, and then after the year we'll see where we're going. We'll see how it is, and we might be able to go for more. So let me just bring up my rules here. Had to download Fantrax for this. Never been on Fantrax. I've never done an auction online either. Let's see, League Home. I want the rules here. Okay, it's rotisserie. Your roster needs to have 29 players. Obviously not all are starting. Let's see. So for hitting, there's home runs, RBI, runs scored, stolen bases, and on-base percentage. Okay, so no batting average. It's on-base percentage. So that changes things quite a bit. There's pitching, it's strikeouts, ERA, whip, saves. Saves and holds, which is good. And innings pitched, which that's an interesting wrinkle. So healthy pitchers are good pitchers to have. Which means I don't know if there's a minimum for innings pitched. I don't see anything saying that. But it's like, if innings pitched is a category, I don't think that would be the case for it to have a minimum. So I'm not going to worry about that. Let's see. So yeah, the fact that we're going with on-base percentage is big. So it is 5x5. And the fact that it saves and holds instead of just saves really changes things as well. Because my old league was so old that it was actually 4x4. It was just home runs, RBI, or I'm sorry, it was 5x5. It was average, home runs, RBI, runs, and steal. Or no, it was only 4. There were no runs. It was home runs, RBI, stolen bases, and batting average. And on pitching side, it was ERA, WHIP, wins, and saves. So we're not even doing wins on this, which is very interesting. Makes sense. Wins are, whatever. That discussion has been had numerous times. So what I do for prep is every year I get the baseball prospectus, and we're going to go through each AL team and see what kind of projections we've got here for players. And this isn't going to be entirely up to date because of the fact that, this came out in January. Like end of January. So a lot of these players aren't... They were presumed to have more playing time than they're going to have. But I still think that a lot of their... Like the overall projections on Baseball Prospectus are... I like them. I think that that they're fairly accurate. It seems most of the time. So I'm not going to complain about that. I like to use them to try and find players that it's like, this is a guy who... Because I'm not looking at obviously big names here. I'm looking for guys that, we all know how, obviously Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Shohei Ohtani and those are the guys that you obviously want to pay the big money for. But I'm looking for guys that we can add to the team, in the later rounds for not much money, that are projected to have good on base percentage, good on base percentage, good somebody who can chip in 15 to 20 home runs for cheap, somebody who can chip in 10 steals for cheap, guys like that. And on the pitching side, obviously we're going to be looking for since it's not just saves, it's holds and saves, we can look for some really good relief pitchers who just are not going to get saves. A guy that I really like personally is Aaron Bowmer for the White Sox. That guy's really good. So he's a guy that I'll definitely look to get later on for cheap. So right now we're on so Baseball Prospectus goes this year. They're not going in alphabetical order like they used to. Now this year they're doing by division. So we're starting with the Baltimore Orioles. One guy. In fact, here, hold on. I am going... hacker keyboard here. Let me see when the last time some of these depth charts were updated. They look pretty up to date. So I think we're going to go with some of these depth charts just to see if I see somebody I can see if they're... Because obviously it's not... Rosters aren't finalized, but a lot of guys have been kicked from the teams. Cut or moved to minors or whatever. Okay, I'm looking at Baltimore Orioles depth chart, that's just that's a whole other situation right there. That team there is not much to go on with that team. I mean, Ruben Odor is an interesting guy that I could probably get late. He's gonna play. I don't know that I want to invest too much in him because he could fall. He's so streaky, and most of the time that streak is cold. Let's see. How about for Austin Hayes? What does Baseball Prospectus like on Austin Hayes? They're saying that he is looking at an on-base percentage of .299. That's not great. 21 homers, 6 steals. And the thing is that there's not going to be much, runs and RBI on this team are just not going to be plentiful. I'm not too big on too many guys on the Orioles. Like maybe Ryan Mountcastle for the right price. Like we can probably even just skip this team. Obviously Cedric Mullins would be good, but he's going to be pretty expensive. Yeah, Odor. Okay, I've got Odor on there. I'm surprised he's in here. Yeah, they do not like his numbers. They're saying he's going to get like 10 homers. But they're also saying he's only going to get 251 plate appearances, which he's going to get way more than that. I would say double that. Like, I think he's going to... It's Baltimore, they are tanking. I think he's going to be the starter pretty much all season. And it's not like he's cooked. Like, he's still only like 28 or 29. Like, he's not even 30. I know he's not 30 yet. So, I mean, he can still bounce back. I mean, at this point, though, more than likely, he is what he is. So if we were to double his stats here, he'd still have a terrible on-base percentage. It would still be awful. It'd be 20 homers and 62 RBIs. That's not great, but, that can be helpful later on. Now, Anthony Santander, I do kind of like. He's not big with on-base percentage, but, I mean, he'll get you 20 homers. He'll get you close to 80 RBI. He's an interesting guy. I'm not even going to add him to my list. Like I said, I don't think I want to add anybody on this team to my lists. There's nobody even in their bullpen that I want to add to my list. Let's just skip Baltimore. Okay, the Red Sox. Here we go. The Red Sox are pretty set in their lineup, so let's bring up their depth chart. Now, one guy I think I can get for a decent... I want to add him to this list. I want to add Nick Pavetta. If this will work. I want to add Nick Pavetta to my list of guys to look for. I might be the only person who really liked when the Red Sox got him. I thought that was going to be great for him, and it was. He had a pretty good year. It's just a matter of, I think you can get him for a lot. I think you can get him pretty cheap. So we're going to, maybe not like super cheap, but decently cheap. And I definitely like to get a lot of, like, my starting pitching historically has been target guys that I don't necessarily go for strikeouts on guys, because in my old league there was no need for strikeouts. Obviously strikeout pitchers usually outperform non-strikeout pitchers, but they cost more too. But since we are doing strikeouts here, I'm not going to punt strikeouts, but as a category. But I do think that my hitting can be enhanced by getting more mid-level pitchers that don't rely on strikeouts so much. Like Marco Gonzalez has been a favorite of mine for years. I love that guy. He was a staple in my rotation, like, since he came in that old league. He was on my team pretty much from the time he came up to when the league folded. He was always one of our good pitchers. So I do like Nick Pavetta. In fact, here let's see what is this gonna say? What does Baseball Prospectus say about him? Yeah, in my experience, my thing is I just want pitchers who their projected ERA is looking to be under 4. I feel like if you can have an ERA under 4, you're going to be in the running for the top couple spots. That's my theory. And, it played out that way all those years in my other league. So I'm going to stick with that. So Baseball Prospectus projects him to be ERA of 3.88. Here. I'm not even doing this right. Okay, there. ERA, whip, Ks. Yeah. Yeah. Plus, Pavetta's relatively healthy as well. He's not a guy that's hurt too often. I've never actually used this spreadsheet. Like this program. Let's make this a little bigger. That's good. Now, obviously, for strikeouts, he's not a big strikeout guy. They're saying they're still putting him at K per 9 of a little over 9.3. Here, we're going to make this K9. Because that's a bit, I want that. I'll change it to that because it's a better idea because, they're projecting innings pitched, which means they're also projecting strikeouts based on innings pitched. So it's like, I'd rather have the ratio there for if somebody's going to get hurt. It gives you a better idea of what to expect. So we're going to stick with that. I should probably go to hitters first. Actually, let's do this. I want to save the format here. I cannot type on base percentage. Okay, so let's start with their hitters because this goes in order of hitters first. Like, obviously Xander Bogaerts is a guy who, he's finally getting the recognition he deserves in the fantasy community. He's always been one of those guys that you could get cheaper than you really should have been able to. So one guy that I find interesting is Bobby Dolbeck. What do you do with Bobby Dolbeck? I'm not entirely sure. You've got a prospect coming up over him, Tristan Casas, who's a first base prospect. The guy's got power. He's way better at getting on base. That's for sure. He's just a better hitter overall. And there's a lot of talk that Dolbeck's just going to get supplanted real quick. I'm not so certain. Dolbeck is definitely the new 3 True Outcomes extreme. He is the new Mark Reynolds. I think he's somebody to put on my list. Now they're only projecting him for an on-base percentage of, let's see, what do they have him at here? 309. That's not as bad as you'd think. Runs and RBI. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go. Runs and RBI are not super important because those are more luck based anyway. Obviously being in a better lineup is good. So, and we got a good idea of what the lineups look like. So, and Bobby Dolbeck is going to be hitting in the bottom third of their lineup because their lineup is pretty good, which is unfortunate. So I don't expect many runs or RBIs from him, but if we can get homers, which they're projecting because they're projecting him to get a little under 500 plate appearances and 25 homers. So I'll put him at 25. And obviously, like, none there, maybe one. That's not something I would expect from him. They have Enrique Hernandez, which after some of his heroics the last couple years, I don't know that he's going to be cheap, which is ridiculous to me. Like, I think that I'm not a huge believer in Enrique Hernandez. I mean, he'll get you where you want to go, I guess, but I wouldn't pay much for him. I'm not saying he's a bad baseball player. I'm just saying I wouldn't pay much for him in fantasy. This one's they're projecting him to be 20 homers, 324 on base, which that's not bad. I don't know. He's definitely a target of opportunity. I'm not going to add him to my list of guys to target. But, an interesting player nonetheless. So let's see. They have. Let's take a look at who's. So they obviously have Trevor Story. That's not a sleeper pick to get Trevor Story. That's for sure. It looks like they're gonna actually have Jackie Bradley Jr. in right field, but I do not want Jackie Bradley Jr. on my team. I'm not sure anybody wants him on their team at this point. Pitching wise. Let's see. So obviously Chris Sale's out. But like I said, they've got Nick Pavetta, who I think can be gotten pretty decently cheap. Evaldi's probably going to go for more than he's worth. Now, one interesting guy that they have is Tanner Houck. I kind of like Tanner Houck. I do think he might be destined for the bullpen. Hold on. But he's going to be in their rotation. And even out of the bullpen, the guy is going to be, pretty good. They have him very... Hold on a second here. He's very comparable to Nick Pavetta. I'm going to put him on my list because I personally like him. You got to make the name part longer. Because they're projecting him... they're projecting him for 16 starts. And at this point, with what their rotation looks like, I'm thinking it's going to be probably more. Unless he gets hurt, obviously. So they're projecting him to be 3.61 ERA and 1.24 WHIP. 9.8 K per 9. Not bad. Not bad at all, really. They also have James Paxson, but I'm not sure what his injury status looks like at the moment. I'm pretty sure he's hurt. But I mean, really his only competition for that last spot seems to be Michael Wacha, and Wacha's just seems like he's done. Certainly don't want him. Another guy that I really like is Garrett Richards. I'm putting him on this. I'm sorry, not Garrett Richards. I'm being stupid. Garrett Whitlock is who I'm talking about. I was saying all last year that when they took him in the Rule 5, I'm like, this guy's going to be a force out of the bullpen. And they say they want to try him as a starter, which would be fine. If he's a starter, then, great. But if he's just a fireman out of the bullpen, he's a guy that I would definitely take. He's going to get you some numbers. Let's see. They are projecting him a little lower on strikeouts. However, he proved himself last year. Last year, he had an ERA under 1.96 and a WHIP of 1.1. and his K per 9 was 9.9. I am not too worried about Garrett Richards. Or about Garrett Whitlock. Okay, actually, I'm not sure how up-to-date these depth charts are, now that I look at it. No, these aren't right. Let me find something better. Let's see if we can find better depth charts. Okay, I think this is going to be a little better. Okay, let me find what we were looking for here. Oh no, this isn't going to work. This requires a subscription. Dur. Okay, this looks a little better. Yeah, okay, yep, this is up to date. Yeah, Tanner Hulk, basically, his competition is Michael Wacha, Rich Hill, and that's about it at this point. James Paxson is on the 60-day IL. I need to get another drink. 1 second. I missed the garbage. Okay, let's see. Looking at their bullpen too, it's nothing super special here. Travis Shaw is actually on Boston again. He hasn't been cut yet, apparently. He'd be a cheap source, but I don't think he'll make the final roster. Cheap source of power. Okay, so that was Boston. On to the Yankees. Which, I mean, their team is pretty well known at this point. Like, I don't expect too much change from what they had last year to this year. Just taking a kind of a quick look at who's still on their roster. They do have Tim Lecastro, which is interesting, but I'm pretty sure he was, I thought I heard that he was optioned already, so not someone to target right now. They have some interesting prospects. I do like Everson Pereira, but he's obviously not going to start with the team. And like, they're not going to bring up an outfielder until someone gets hurt, which granted with an outfield that includes Aaron Judge, Aaron Hicks, and potentially Stanton, lots of injuries can go around there. We've seen that in the last 3 years or so. So they recently got Josh Donaldson, who is interesting, but I do not think is going to be cheap. So I'm not going to put him on my list. None of their catchers really, quote unquote, catches my eye. Yeah, I don't know. There's not too many guys on the Yankees that I think are going to go for cheap. So I'm not too concerned about looking for value there. They do have Jordan Montgomery. So going on to their pitchers, they do have so Nestor Cortez. What do they project for Nestor Cortez? They're projecting decent numbers for him. Let's see. I'll probably add him to my list. Jordan Montgomery. I don't know about Jordan Montgomery, man. He's very... I mean, they're projecting him to be okay, but the guy has barely pitched in the last who knows how long. I mean, right now they're projecting Montgomery as their third pitcher and Cortez is their fifth. I am going, just so I don't forget about them, I'm going to put them on my list, even though I don't think that they're... I think Cortez is the kind of guy who's going to get lost in the shuffle. He's going to be one of those guys that... one of those third or guys who people want as their fourth or fifth pitcher, but he's going to get lost in the shuffle, and then people are going to be bidding pretty heavily on other guys, and then all of a sudden I can swoop in and say Nestor Cortez and get a decent price on him. So we're going to add him to the list. Their baseball prospectus is putting him at 3.9. Okay. That's going to bother me. Oops. Okay, that's better at least. They're projecting him to have a whip of 1.21, and they're projecting his K per 9 at, where is he? 9.2. So, not bad. They have very rosy projections for Montgomery, though. I don't know about that. They're saying 3.61 ERA. I don't know about it. He doesn't seem like that kind of... I don't know. Yankee Stadium is not a great place to pitch. I don't know. I'm not big on him, so I'm not even going to add him to my list. But he's a guy I guess I'll try to keep in mind if something happens. Now, Jonathan Lasega... I like this guy. He was dominant out of the bullpen last year. Obviously, Chapman is going to get the saves, but Loizinga is just going to be... Once they put him into the bullpen, he was just ridiculous. It says he had a 2.17 ERA, a whip of 1.02, only 8.8 K per 9. This year they're projecting him to regress quite a bit. Clearly. But I'm not so sure. He looked good to me. So he's a relief pitcher that I do want to target. For holds, I think that he is definitely has a lot of potential there. You also have Clay Holmes, who's interesting. He had a really good season last year, but it was really his only first good season in the majors. I'm going to put him on the list just because, so I don't forget about him. Yeah, last year his ERA was 1.61 and his whip was 0.79. Now they're projecting him to really regress, which is not surprising. K per 9 was not 10.9. They're projecting him 9.9. But I do want to keep him on my list just because the guy, the guy's got... He showed what he could do last year. I am a big fan. But again, I'm a big fan of his, but I think we'll leave it at that. Just because who knows about playing time here, or who knows about, his regression. Okay, now Tampa Bay. Whew, the team that is, especially for pitching, is ridiculously hard to try and figure out. But again, we're going to start with hitting. And Tampa Bay always has some interesting timeshares. So they've got Mike Zunino, they've got Francisco Mejia, what do they project on Mejia here? They don't project a lot for him. His on-base percentage of only .314. But, that's not bad for a catcher, clearly. Like, I would take him late. I mean, obviously, Zunino is the one to get there because of his home run potential. So, I don't know. I'll put him on my list so I don't forget about him. He'd be good for a backup catcher, I think. .314. They're only projecting him for 7 homers. Obviously 0 steals. So one interesting guy is Taylor Walls. Taylor Walls is more... I'm not a huge fan of Taylor Walls, and I don't even, at this point he's still on the team, but I'm guessing he'll probably be sent down because they've got so many guys to make room for. I don't know about Taylor Walls. Never been a huge fan of his bat. He's definitely more of a utility infielder in my eyes. For fantasy purposes, I'm personally hoping that Tampa Bay trades Kevin Kiermaier. I do think that they've got some guys who need to play a little more and who have better offensive upside. And at this point, Kiermaier has been around for a while, so... Actually, let's see. He is younger than I thought. It says here that he is... He'd be 32, so his bat has just fallen off a cliff. I mean, it was never super great to begin with, but... One guy that I always have kind of liked is Manuel Margot. Simply because of his steals upside. I'm going to add him to my list so I don't forget about him too. He's a guy with enough playing time, can definitely, you know, if he puts it together, he could be a 2020 guy easily, I think. I've always kind of had a soft spot for him, so I'm going to get him on my list here. They traded for Harold Ramirez, who is not going to be a starter, but could be an interesting depth piece. Baseball Prospectus is not going to have him on the Rays, clearly, but let's see if we can find him on the Cubs. Oh, come on. Where would the NL Central be here? Oh, that's the West. Oh, come on. Here we go. The Cubs. So we're looking for Harold Ramirez. What would because he would have been an interesting player. They're not projecting too much out of him. So I'm not gonna bother. Now pitching wise. I've been a fan of Yanni Torino since he came up, but he's been hurt the last 2 years. So I'm not going to target him, which is unfortunate. I really like that guy. I mean, this team has some pitching, that's for sure. Let's just take a quick look here. So obviously, they have Nick Anderson in the bullpen. He's a guy to look at. They have Josh Fleming, who is going to be starter/bulk guy, but I'm not the biggest fan. Now, they're going to have Corey Kluber, but I think he might go for higher than he probably should, and, you know, I'm not gonna pay too much I wouldn't pay too much for him anyway. Louis Patino, there's a guy. Or is it Patino? I don't know how to pronounce that. The accent always gets me. But he has potential, but I don't know that he's even gonna make the team. Like, he was obviously the big pitching prospect that they traded for from San Diego. But I'm not super sold on him. They do have Brooks Raley, who is very interesting and out of the bullpen. I'm going to put him on my list. Or let me look at something real quick. Is he still... Yeah, he's... Okay, yeah. So let's get Brooks Raley on here. Bub. Bub, you just want you're trying to get her face underneath my fingers. Okay, let's rub your face. Let's rub your face. Yeah, good kitty. Rub your face. You're so good. You're so good. Scratch. Get your neck. Can we do this later, please? Can we do this later? In the middle of something. Come on. Time to get down. You're getting fur all over my computer desk here. I know. It's tough. Again, do you want to stay on my lap? You can stay on my lap. Nope, she wants on the computer desk. Nope, okay. You're down. Oops. Okay, let's finish this thing here. That is also going to bother me. There, better. And their bullpen is just stacked. Matt Wisler was amazing last year. I'm going to add him to the list too. They're projecting him for 3.58, 1.15, and 10.6. But he was better than that last year. Last year he was 2.15, 0.92, and 11. So, we'll keep an eye on him. Tampa Bay has a ton of prospects coming up. I love Dolph Rohan. He's a guy that I don't even have to add him to my list. He's not making the team out of spring training. They just sent him down I think 2 days ago, but the guy has steals potential all over him. They also have my favorite hitter in their system is Gerardo Hernandez. He was a catcher, supposedly still is, but they are definitely moving him to the outfield to get him more at bats. I think he sticks there. The guy is too good of a hitter to keep, and he was too bad of a catcher and too good of a hitter to keep him behind the plate. So he's gonna be, he's still like probably 2 years away. But I really like the guy. I'm a big fan. How long have we been at this? Almost an hour. Okay, so it's not too bad. Toronto is next. Let me bring up their depth chart. So I'm not sold on Toronto's bullpen at all. There's nobody that I want to add from their team. So we're going to just go to hitters, but at the same time, looking at the hitters, it's like there's nobody there you're going to get cheap anyway. Their entire lineup is ridiculous. Yeah, no way. There's no one to add here because there's nobody that's going to be a deal. Okay, let's advance in the prospectus here. Past the Brewers, past the Pirates. Bub is making herself busy with a toy, which is good. That's the Cardinals. Do not care. Here we go. White Sox. Let's bring up their depth chart. So Lance Lynn just got hurt. He's going to be gone for a while, but he's also a guy who would cost too much. Dylan C. Oh, that's right. Starting with hitters. Gavin Sheets is interesting. What are they projecting for Gavin Sheets? Because it's looking like he's going to make the team. I think he's out of options. He kind of has to at this point. They don't like him very much. They're projecting him to have 422 plate appearances, but only 12 home runs. So, I mean, it's the same thing for Andrew Vaughn. They're projecting them to be about the same player, which sounds about right at this point. Although Vaughn seems like he has more upside. I do like Andrew Vaughn. If I can get him for cheap, I'll definitely look at it. Now, they just traded for A.J. Pollock, who I do really want on my team, actually. I do like A.J. Pollock. That they traded for him was a huge step for them. So I would, but he's not going to go super cheap. I think he'll go like mid-range. Definitely a guy that I want. I'm going to put him on my list just because, even though, like I said, he's not going to be like the cheapest guy in the world. So let me see what they're projecting for A.J. Pollock. Obviously, I'll have to go to the Dodgers for that. So let's take a look. A.J. Pollock. Yep, 326, 17, and actually 9. And that's only, but the thing is, that's in 394 plate appearances, and he's going to get a full season, unless, obviously barring injury, but with White Sox, he's going to get a lot more at bats. He'll get closer to 500-600 for a full season. So I think those numbers are obviously a little low. You could definitely be 25 and 15 player. So that's why I want him. I'm willing to pay for AJ Pollock. Within reason, clearly. But, Jose Abreu. Oh, I've been a big fan of Jose Abreu. Because this is a non-base percentage league, I think I'm going to bid on him pretty decently. His average has gone down a little every year, but I mean, the guy's still going to put up an on-base percentage of like at least 330 to go along with, at least 25 home runs. So he's a guy I like. I mean, I don't even have to put him on the list because he's still going to go for probably, because of the dearth of first baseman, I think he's going to probably be a little overbid. So I'm not even going to put him on my list. But he's a guy that, if he falls in my lap, I definitely want him. Now for the pitching part of this. Also Tim Anderson. Big fan of Tim Anderson. So Baseball Prospectus is projecting a good season for Dylan Cease. They're projecting him to be even better than last year. I'm not sold. I'm not sold on him. I'll put him on the list, though, because they are projecting him to have decent numbers. And there are players that I would really not prefer to have less than him anyway. And look at that, 3.69. 1.24 and 10.8. Like last year, his K per 9 was 12.3. How sustainable is that, really? I don't know. Cease is one of those guys, I've got to see him do it again. I just have to see him do it again. And like I said before, I'm going to put Aaron Bowmer on my list here. Really like him. Garrett Crochet is it I don't know how to pronounce it, if it's Crochet or Crochet, but he's obviously really good, but he's hurt. I'm not a big fan of just about anybody else in their bullpen. That's kind of a weakness, especially after they got rid of Craig Kimbrell. But I mean, they got Pollock, so it was an even trade. I think that worked out well for everyone involved. Next, it is the Guardians. Let's get down to the hitters. Now, it's interesting here. They are not listing a player that I was told made their lineup, or made the opening day lineup, Stephen Kwan, he's a guy that I do want to target. So I'm going to get him on my list. He's an outfielder. Pretty sure I heard that he made the opening day roster, but he's not listed on this depth chart. So I'm going to put him on here, and I'll probably highlight him just so I know to make sure on that. So I mean, he's going to be a rookie, but this is a guy who he just gets on base. Like, he's not going to hit a bunch of home runs or steal bases, but he gets on base. And considering Cleveland's outfield, like, he should be getting playing time. So, I mean, they're projecting him to be 337. And they're projecting this to be, like, 230 plate appearances. So, I mean, as you can see, they're 3 and 2. Not huge numbers there, but, like, you get this guy cheap, and he'll, as one of your last guys, he could definitely help you out in on-base percentage department. Miles Straw. I would like to have Miles Straw because of steals, but because he's going to be playing, because he's their number one guy in center, like, he's going to be playing all year. He's probably going to be way too expensive. Like, I think he's going to go for way more than he should just because of steals. Pitching wise, though, obviously this is their strength. Now, a guy that's not getting much love for Cleveland, I'm not even certain he's going to make the team, if he even has. Maybe, I'm pretty sure he hasn't. But Eli Morgan. They do not have good projections on Eli Morgan. I think he can be better. Probably not this year. I think he needs a little more time. And I don't think he starts in the rotation. Especially with seemingly everybody healthy. But the guy's got a ridiculous changeup. So he's kind of a guy that I'm going against the projections here. I'm going to put him on my list just because I think he's got so much projection, and Cleveland gets the most out of these kind of pitchers. So yeah, they are not fans. And like I said, I don't even know if he'll make the opening day. He's not a strikeout guy. Is just, I don't know. I just like his changeup too much for him to be to wash out. I just got to figure out how to highlight. There we go. And we were going to do the same with Quan. Out of the bullpen, I mean, their bullpen is usually okay. They've got the big names. They got Clace, who I just saw they signed to a ridiculously cheap contract. I think it was like 4 years, $20 million. So, I mean, Clace is going to be getting $5 million for the next couple of years, which, I mean, I think that's a great deal for Cleveland, that's for sure. I think Clace is looking at, he was still going to be under team control for a good amount of time. So this actually avoids his arbitration numbers going up, and then he'll hit free agency roughly when he should anyway. So it probably worked out for both sides. To avoid the head, at least for Clace, to avoid the headaches. Another guy in their rotation, Cal Quantrill, who was really good last year. Who's been really good for the last, couple years, but they are not. Baseball Prospectus does not like him at all. Their projection system has him at a 4.27 ERA. But I mean, he's been really good. I mean, last year it was 2.89 ERA, 1.18. Not a strikeout guy. And then in 2020 was weird, so I mean, it's hard to say anything about that. But he was really good in 2020, 1.84, 1.09. I don't know what to believe when it comes to Cal Quantrill. Not someone on my target list, but again, if he falls into my lap, there's way worse guys. Very similar to Dylan Cease in that regard, but I kind of like Cease a little more. That's probably going to come back to bite me in the ass. I'm going to put him on my list just so I don't forget, though. Because I do not want to forget about Cal Quantrill. Oh, 2 L's. So yeah, their projections do not like him at all. Not a strikeout guy. That's fine. Again, strikeouts are... The Detroit Tigers. Ooh, there's an interesting team. So for catching, they have Tucker Barnhart, who is a perfectly cromulent catcher. I'm not going to project anything big for him. Jake Rogers is interesting, though. Again, I doubt he's going to make the team. But this guy hits the ball really hard. I read a little about him recently, and he's like, the guy hits the ball stupid hard. So I don't think he's going to make the team. I don't think he's going to make much of an impact this year, but he could at some point for this team, just not this year. Obviously, his plate discipline is terrible. He's definitely definitely the kind of catcher who's the 3 true outcomes catcher like Zunino. But yeah, when he makes contact, he can hit the ball just stupidly hard. So we're gonna not target him. I heard Harold Castro made the team, which is I like Harold Castro. I've always had a soft spot for Harold Castro just because I have soft spots for empty average hitters. I just do. Like, this guy's going to hit at least 280. And his on-base percentage is going to be like 290. But he's the kind of... He puts the ball in play almost every single time he's up. And I just like players like that. I get it. I'm not going to target him. The real reason you target Harold Castro is if A, you're in an average you're in a league that does average instead of on base percentage, and B, he's gonna have position eligibility all over the place, so you can stick him just about anywhere. But even then, there are way better options for that. It's just he's just a guy that I've always liked. I just like him, and so he's not even going on the list, especially because I know about him. He's not a guy I'm gonna forget about just because he's one of my favorites out there. But yeah, I just had to say my piece about Harold Castro, and that I was happy for him that he made the opening day roster. I thought that's great. I think Akil Baddoo is probably going to be overbid, which is interesting, especially because he's probably going to be in a platoon. I mean, the guy has 20-20 potential all over him. The guy's going to get 20 steals, almost no matter. If he gets any amount of playing time, it seems like the guy can steal bases. He's not a guy that I'm going to forget about, so I'm not even going to put him on the list. He's a guy I might even target, but I don't know. Again, I don't know how much I'm willing to go for him. It's going to depend on where we are in the draft at that point. Hymer Candelario. Interesting player. He's one of those guys for the Tigers that most people seem to be like, he's a placeholder. Eventually somebody's going to replace. Eventually on the next good Tigers team, he's going to be replaced. But he has stuck around, doing nothing but get on base. He's not a huge home run hitter. Last year he was his career high with 16. But he gets on base. I'm going to put him on my list here because I do like. If I have a hole to plug in like the corner infield or third base, he's not a bad guy to go after. One. Obviously, Detroit's going to have some rookies in their team. It's looking like, I think I heard that Spencer Torkelson is going to make the team. But he's well known. I think he's going to be bid on probably way too high. Same with Riley Green. I do want Robbie Grossman, though. That maybe makes me a fool, but I do want Robbie Grossman. The guy's always been an on-base machine. Last year he had kind of a breakout year of sorts with 23 homers and 20 steals. They're obviously not going to project him for that. They're 13 and 8. But the potential for so much more is there. Going into his 30? He's a little over 30, I want to say. But yeah, he's a guy that I like, Robbie Grossman. We're gonna hold on to him on this list. They have Jonathan Scope, he's a cheap power guy. What are they projecting for Scope? What are they projecting for Derek Hill? Not much. Ooh, they're not big on Scope either this year. I mean, he has been trending down. Yeah, I'm not even going to put him on the list. And their pitching isn't exactly going on to their pitching. It's not something to look forward to. I mean, there's Eduardo Rodriguez. Michael Pineda's been steady. Spencer Turnbull is like the most maddening pitcher in Major League Baseball. He'll go out there. I've talked about Spencer Turnbull before, but he'll go out there and he'll throw 5 innings of like 2-hit ball with like 2 hits, 2 walks, 12 or 13 strikeouts. And then the next time he's out, he'll go 1 1/3, giving up 6 runs. Like, he's one of those guys. He averages out to be an average pitcher, but his starts are so extreme. He is so maddening, and he never goes past. And he throws so many pitches. He's never gone. I don't know. If he goes past the 5th inning, it's rare. Most of the time, it's going to be 5 innings out of him, and that's it. He throws so many pitches. Oh, he's so maddening. I don't even know what else to say about him. It's feast or famine with this guy. Definitely a guy to look at for for strikeouts, though. I mean, he's gonna strike people out. I'm just curious. What are they projecting for him? Spencer Turnbull. Oh, and that's right. It doesn't list him as hurt, but I thought that he was hurt. Yeah, I'm not even going to put him on the list. I'm pretty sure he's hurt. And there's definitely no bullpen options I'm really looking forward to in there. So we're going to move on. Next is the Kansas City Royals. I'm probably going to be watching a lot of Kansas City Royals games this year. I don't know. They seem like a really fun team to watch. They have a lot of exciting young players and interesting veterans. I don't know. Their team has a lot of players that I look at and I'm like, that's an interesting guy. I want to watch him play. Which is weird because they're going to be pretty bad. Okay, so everyone knows Salvador Perez, clearly. The fantasy community is getting to know MJ Mendelez, or MJ Melendez. Sorry. So since we're in an on-base percentage league, there's Carlos Santana. What are they projecting for Carlos Santana? Still a .351 on-base percentage. That's ridiculous. Ah. They've been projecting for 2 steals. Okay. They have Michael A. Taylor, who is not much for getting on base, but he gives you a little bit of. The guy can steal base. He can steal some bases, so we're gonna put him on the list. I mean, he's gonna be their everyday center fielder until he falls apart, which is definitely something that can happen to them. Okay, there's Mondesi. I don't even know what to expect from Adalberto Mondesi. He's another one of those guys where it's like, I'm not going to target him, but if he falls into my lap, I'm not going to say no. Andrew Benintendi's interesting, but I don't need to put him on my list. Though I am curious what they project for an on-base percentage. Everyone knows Bobby Witt Jr. is just made the team, and he's the number 1 prospect in baseball. So, I think he's gonna be a little overpriced. I mean, with good reason. But again, he's a guy I've got to see it first before I pay premium for him. I'm definitely somebody who, when I'm going for a fantasy team, I like my stable players. I like guys who I can sort of predict. If I'm going to pay big for players, I want them to have steady production. And obviously, I want my shots and my cheap players. That's where I'll take the chances. I don't like bidding on too high on, unproven players. Let's see. They have Nikki Lopez, who is definitely a steals guy. So we're going to put him on the list just because steals are getting rarer and rarer. Obviously, he's not going to hit home runs, and they're actually only projecting him for 10 steals. He had 22 last year. He's only caught once. They're actually going to keep Ryan O'Hearn on the roster. Why would you do that? He's definitely a guy I think they got to move on from. Pitching wise, their best pitcher is Zach Greinke. For now. Yeah, nothing too inspiring here. You don't watch him for the pitching, that's for sure. So yeah, I'm not gonna go into detail on these guys. I'll take a look at some of their starters just to see what's projected for some of them. Bubik, not great. Carlos Hernandez, not great. Brad Keller, not great. They're all like at least 4.5 ERA. Kowar, no. Singer's about the only guy I'd really consider out of this bunch. I mean, Greinke maybe. In fact, what did they? Let's find Houston. Because he's going to be under Houston. What did they project him at there? And Oakland's entries are just going to be all messed up, aren't they? There we go. Okay. They don't even list him here. Yeah, he's not here. Am I just being dumb about this? No, he was with Houston all year. That's interesting. He's not listed. He doesn't even have a projection here. That's interesting. Well, yeah, we're going to move on from Kansas City. That's the thing. There's not much fantasy-wise to talk about when it comes to Kansas City, but I don't know. I think they're going to be a fun team. So that leaves the local team, the Minnesota Twins, for the AL Central. Oof. Okay. So they made some moves. They've got Gary Sanchez now. I'm not gonna add him to my list. I've always been a fan of Arias. I'm gonna put him on my list just because I like him. I hate when I do that. Okay. The guy is a doubles machine. Urshela, he's had success. I'm not convinced that he's going to be a repeat performer. I'm not the biggest believer in Kirilov yet. I want to see him do something first. If he obviously if he's cheap enough, I'll definitely take a chance on him. Because I mean, I heard he was dealing with a wrist injury last year, which obviously that saps just about everything. Like, if a hitter has a wrist injury, you're better off just sitting it out. Like, teams should just sit him out because it's with a wrist injury, you're better off with the league you're better off with a replacement level player seemingly than a lot of guys. That's just always been kind of a thing with me. Oh, who else to look at here? Max Kepler all of a sudden becomes more interesting since we're not doing an average, we're doing an on-base percentage. The guy just, I read something about him where they were talking about how he gets underneath the ball too much. So he gets like way more pop-ups than just about any player in the majors. Yeah, I believe it. So he becomes a little more interesting since it's on-base percentage, since he does walk a good amount. I think that's all I really want to look at for hitters for the Twins. Pitching is interesting. In a not-so-great way. It seems like a lot of people love Bailey Ober. Like, especially in the fantasy community, they're projecting him to be, a lot of people are like, oh, he looks good. And it's like, well, I mean, he's not bad. But I think a lot of people are looking at him like, as a cheap option, which at least they're looking at him that way. Baseball Prospectus is putting him at, they really like him. Their projection system has him at a 3.67 ERA, 1.2 WHIP. So I don't know. Again, he's a flyer. I wouldn't pay too much for him. I'm not even going to put him on the list. The bullpen is not so much better. Jorge Alcala is probably the most interesting guy in their bullpen right now. Taylor Rogers is obviously good. But everyone knows about Taylor Rogers. Jorge Alcala, I'm going to put on my list. He can definitely surpass these numbers. But I think that's about all there really is to talk about with the Twins. Which means we move on to the AL West. Let's get that page open, and this starts with the Astros. Okay, so they got nobody worth talking about at catcher. I mean, not many teams do, I guess. A lot of their guys are... People know their guys. Kyle Tucker is going to go for a ton of money. Personally, I like Yordan Alvarez. I think that, I've been saying this for a while, but he's just such a good hitter that I think that if any player would break 60 home runs in a season at this point, it'd probably be him. Just because he's such a good hitter when he's healthy. that, and his power is so easy. His power is ridiculously easy. I mean, I watched the guy almost check swing a home run. It was almost a check swing, and it was over the green monster. The guy's just ridiculous. Because so many of the other power hitters out there that get close to 60, like they're not super great hitters. They'll hit 250, 260, which is obviously good. But then you got a guy like Alvarez who could hit like 280, 290, potentially. And obviously he takes a walk too, so yeah, he's a guy that I really like. There's no point in putting him on the list though, obviously. I do wonder who's going to be their center fielder. It says right now it's Chas McCormick. Yeah, I don't know. Most of their hitters everyone either knows or are not projected to be super great. Let's go for pitching now. Pitching is more interesting. Obviously, I have Framber Valdez. Lance McCullers Jr. is hurt because he's always hurt. Verlander is an interesting guy coming off injury. Odorizzi, who the hell cares? Urquidy and Garcia, though. Those are some interesting guys. What are they projecting for Garcia? They're not projecting very much for him. I mean, he can definitely outperform what they're projecting for him. I'm going to put him on my list. As someone who I think is going to outperform. I do like Urquidy if he can stay healthy. Obviously, the guy has had problems with that. But I mean, he's done nothing but perform when he gets the chance. Again, not a strikeout guy. They're projecting a pretty good season for Verlander, too. 3.04, 1.07. There's no one really in the bullpen that catches my eye so far. I mean, obviously, everyone knows Ryan Presley. I don't know. None of these guys really do it for me. I definitely like all the guys that I've listed here a lot more. So we're going to get out of Houston and go to the Angels. They've got Max Stassi at catcher, who he's a guy that I always liked, but people are starting to catch on. So I think he's going to probably be a little overpriced for what he gives you, unfortunately, because I used to get him cheap. And granted, he was just for a long time he was just the kind of catcher that wasn't going to hurt you. But now it's getting to the point where he could probably help you offensively, and people are starting to notice. So let's see, who do they have on their team? I heard that they DFA'd Justin Upton, which that's interesting. They have Matt Duffy. I did not realize that. He was on the Cubs, wasn't he? Let's bring up the Cubs again and see what they're projecting for him. Oh, maybe he wasn't. Could have swore he was on the Cubs. What does the website say? Yeah, he played for the Cubs. They don't list him here. They do not think much of him, apparently, at Baseball Prospectus. Do they give him a right up in the back here? They do. They project him to have a really good on-base percentage, 357. Yeah, that's not bad. I'm going to put him on my list. So this is in roughly half a season. They're projecting 5 homers and 8 steals, but an on-base percentage of 357. And I mean, let's take a look here. Right now, he's listed as their top second baseman on this depth chart. Yeah, he could be a steal. That's interesting. I really like that. The problem is they also have David Fletcher. They're listing David Fletcher as their primary shortstop, actually. I don't know if that's going to be right. But that's interesting. Yeah, the Angels have some opportunities here. They also have Tyler Wade. There's an interesting guy. Not quite sure what to expect from Tyler Wade. The guy can steal some bases, but he's got to get on base first, so I'm not even going to put him down. They've got this guy, Jack Mayfield. What do they project for Jack Mayfield? Not a whole lot. They do not like him. Yeah, 282 on base percentage, 6-1 in like 180 plate appearances. There's also Brandon Marsh, who I do like, but I've got to see it. Again, if he falls to me, I'll take him, but I'm not gonna pay too much for him. But Matt Duffy, that is an interesting one. I really like that. Definitely looking at him. Also, I'm curious where Justin Upton's going to end up since he was DFA'd. That's something worth keeping an eye on. Although I'm thinking he lands with the National League team as a DH. Okay, pitching-wise, the Angels never have any luck with pitching. They did get Noah Syndergaard. I do not like Patrick Sandoval. Although I am curious what Prospectus has for him. They project him to be really good, actually. Yeah, they're projecting him to be really good for some reason, and I'm not entirely certain why. I'll put him on the list so I don't forget about him. So I don't, immediately dismiss him. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'll get him on there. Personally, I like Reed Detmers more than I like him. What are they projecting for Detmers? Yeah, they're not projecting much for him. 4.21, 1.32. Because he did get roughed up a little last year, that's for sure, in his first taste of the majors. But he's got a ton of potential. I really like him. Definitely a guy that I'm gonna put. I'm gonna put him on my list. But I think he's also a guy who might be a little overpriced because of his potential. I just don't want to forget about him. Otherwise, it's not like they've got a ton of options in the bullpen to look at. Yeah. Jose Quijada is an interesting name. I'm not gonna lie about that. I might have to put him on the list. The problem is that he throws his fastball, like he relies on his fastball so much, and it's at this, and in this day and age, it's hard to trust a pitcher who throws his fastball as much as he does. Like, he throws his fastball so, oh man, it's like at least 70% of the time. I mean, it's a good fastball, don't get me wrong, but I'll put him on the list. I do. He's interesting. He's very interesting, and the guy obviously the guy strikes out so many players, and yeah, I think he's somebody I could get for a minimum bid. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But yeah, he's probably the most interesting name. I mean, they did get Archie Bradley, but Archie Bradley is always just criminally underrated. Where did he play? I want to look up what they had him at. He was with the Phillies last year, I want to say. Let me click on him and find out. Yeah. Okay, so let's look up the Phillies. I want to know. Pittsburgh. Okay, Washington Nationals. Here we go, Phillies. Archie Bradley. Ooh, they do not like him at all. He's not even going to be 30, I don't think. Yeah, it says here he's going to be 29. Yeah, they don't like his declining fastball velocity, it says. But yeah, they're projecting him to be 4.35, 1.39, 8.0. I mean, I guess he hasn't had his last two seasons haven't been super great. Yeah, I won't consider him. That's about it for the Angels. Who's next? Oakland. Okay. Here's where I think you can get some interesting deals, though. I really do, because who's left? A lot of these guys are going to get playing time just because they've got no one left. And like this baseball prospectus, there's no point in looking at the prospectus for this. There just isn't, because most of the guys listed here are gone. Like, who are even going to be their starting pitchers? Who the hell knows? Okay, we're gonna start with hitting. Like right now, this says that their projected first baseman is Eric Thames. Really, it's gonna be Eric Thames. I mean, they do have Tony Kemp. Tony Kemp's a fun player. He's a big on-base guy, and he can steal some bases. I'm going to put him on my list because I like him. They got Jed Lowry back. Who it's like... And there's Chad Pinder. I don't know what to do with Pinder. He's going to play every day pretty much at this point. But he also... And he's going to have multi-position eligibility, which is nice. He's one of the better guys you can get with that'll have eligibility. He's got some power, but he's not a big... He's not a huge on-base guy. And this one, they actually do have him projected to get 500 at-bats with 15 homers on base of 297. So it's not super bad. And everyone's like, oh, he's got so much power potential. And it's like, the guy's going to be over 30, I think, now. Like, I think he is who he is at this point. So, yeah, Pinder's a good guy to get for, to move around if you need somebody to fill in. So, I mean, I'll probably target him because he's a guy that he's been on a lot of my fantasy teams in the last, in my life. So, I'm not even going to put him on the list because I know about him. Now, here's the guy that I'm interested in. Sheldon Noisy. I loved this guy in the minors. All he did was hit in the minors. And his spring, he's looked really good this spring. Well, can I even bring up his spring numbers? I mean, he always looks good in spring is kind of the thing. Yeah. 29 at-bats. Jesus Christ. 29 at-bats. 379 average, 4 homers, 8 RBI, an OPS of 1.249. He's just tearing the cover off the ball. He's definitely the kind of guy that I'm going to put him on my list because I really like him. Like I said, I've liked him for a long time. I doubt... Yeah, this isn't even going to have him on Oakland. I don't even think it's going to project much for him because he was the Dodgers last time around. So yeah, I don't even know what to put for his projections, but I know I like him. So I'm going to put him on the list. And he should get plenty of playing time at third base. I mean, he can play second, he can play third, he can play first. I think he even came up playing short, but it's been a long time since he played short. So he's going to play, and I think he's going to hit. I really, really like Sheldon Noisy. Otherwise, it's like, who the hell else are you going to target on this team? Stephen Voigt. I mean, there's Christian Pash. Who, I mean, the guy, he's got to get on base to steal bases. And I'm not even certain that he's a big stolen base guy. He's mainly a defensive, he's fast. He's a defensive center fielder. Like, his defense is ready to go for at the major league level, but his bat just is not. And it's got potential. So I guess he's a guy that I'll put on my list just because. He came from Atlanta, so let's bring up Atlanta. What do they project him at? Probably not a lot, because he wasn't looking at getting a ton of playing time. They were the first team listed on here. That's why I thought they were going in alphabetical order. There we go. Yeah, even in the minors, you didn't steal all that much bases. You didn't steal a shitload of bases. And when he did, it was not good. He stole 9 in last year in AAA. He stole 9 bases, but was caught 7 times. In 2019, he stole 8 bases, but was caught 11 times. They do not like him at all. I'm not even going to put his projections down. I'm just going to put him there as a flyer. But now I know not to expect steals from him, but just his bat, he could surpass his terrible projections. But like I said, he's mainly a defensive player. He's a good dart throw for a minimum bid. So I'm going to keep him on there. Pitching-wise, again, there's not much to like here, I don't think. Let me do a quick scan of who they list here. Let's see if anyone's ERA is really stands out to me, but I'm thinking that it's not going to. The train's going by. Fun. I mean, they project good stuff for Sean Manaea, but he's not on the team anymore. They project really good things for Frankie Montas, but he might not be on the team anymore. And they don't even like AJ Puck, but I guess the guy's got to be healthy to help. Yeah, Lou Trevino is about the only guy they project to be any good. So, yeah, nobody else there. So, we're going to the Mariners. Another team that I think I'm going to watch a lot of this year. They seem like a fun team. I mean, they're going to be way better than the Royals, that's for sure. This depth chart only lists them as having 3 starting pitchers right now. That is weird. I don't know what to believe there. Okay, looking at their team here. They have some interesting catchers. They really do. They have Tom Murphy is going to be their main guy, who I'm not a huge believer in. At least offensively. They've got Luis Torrens, who is a decent hitter. And then they've got Cal Raleigh, who I don't know if he's going to make the team or not. And this would be his first year in the majors if he did anyway. But he's got a lot of potential. I do kind of like him, but again, I don't think he's going to be... I don't think he's going to be on the team. Maybe he will, who knows, but I'm not optimistic. I'm thinking it's got probably the same as last year. Tom Murphy, Louis Torrens, and then Raleigh if something happens. So he might be an interesting waiver wire pickup. Ty France is fun. I kind of like Ty France. Even though he's not going to, he's not like the biggest power hitter in the world, but he can potentially get you 20. Maybe. Probably closer to 15. But he gets on base. There's no denying that. Guy's always gotten on base. He's just not your prototypical first base / DH because he doesn't have much power. Then they've got Abraham Toro. They're projecting on Toro. I'm curious now. Because they got him from Texas, I want to say. Yeah, they actually project him to be decent getting on base. And if he gets full-time playing, then they're projecting him to be about 18. If you extrapolate this, it's about 18 homers. Interesting player. I kind of want to put him on my list now. God. So we're going to have it as if it was a full season for him. So 18-4. Because they've got him on this as more of a part-time player. They have him they have him listed as their starting second baseman and third baseman, but Eugenio Suarez is going to be their third baseman. Does have Dylan Moore as kind of a super sub. What are they saying about Dylan Moore? I mean, I'm sure it's not much. I mean, the guy can steal bases, but again, he's got to get on base first. I'll put him on my list just as a potential for steals. Like, he was looked at like 2 years ago. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is he," or like, you know, very recently he was looked at as the next big breakout in fantasy, which I thought was kind of weird. I mean, he had 21 steals last year in only 377 at bats. So I'm going to, again, because it's speed, I'm going to put him on there. Okay, I don't like J.P. Crawford. They did get Jesse Winkler, who was an interesting hitter, but I'm not going to... I'll look him up real quick, just because I am curious. He was with Cincinnati. Ooh. Yeah. 372 on base percentage. I think he's going to be priced about right, but I'm going to put him on my list so I don't forget about him since he was a very recent trade. It wouldn't surprise me if in the heat of the moment I forget. There's Jared Kelenic, who people are projecting things for. They have Mitch Hanniger. Mitch Hanniger is always a fun player if he's healthy. That's been his problem, though. He could be a huge player if he could stay healthy. There's Kyle Lewis. Who I'm gonna put on here. They are not big believers in his power, apparently, and I mean, I don't blame them. It's hard to, he's got so much power potential, but he's just not, and he's shown it before, it's just he's not doing, and he's not healthy is the other thing. He's got to stay on the field. Okay. Pitchers. Matt Brash is interesting, but I'm not gonna add him because he's got potential, but he's not I don't know that he's going to be super great. But they have some interesting names in their bullpen I do like. I mean, obviously Andres Munoz is a guy to look at. What are they projecting for him? They don't like him. 4.27, 1.4. I mean, he's definitely a strikeout guy. I'm not going to put him on my list just because, he's got so much potential, but I don't know. I mean, they're going to have Diego Castillo. They're going to have Ken Giles. But, I don't know. Paul Sewald is interesting. I'm going to put him on my list because he's not super well known. But yeah, that's for their bullpen, their starters. I mean, and then there's they list 3 starters here. They have Marco Gonzalez, who I already know about because I love him. Who they actually projections do not like him, but he beats his projections a lot. Logan Gilbert, who I love. I really want Logan Gilbert on my team, so I'm going to put him here. And projections think he's going to be pretty good. I mean, the guy's... he's got ridiculous potential. Another guy that they've got in their system is Emerson Hancock, who I also really like, but he's not ready. They've got George Kirby, who I think I heard was optioned down. Could be wrong on that. And he could definitely outplay the numbers they're listing here. 4.13, 1.35, 8.1. I'll put George Kirby on here. But he's still got a... I'm not sure if he's going to make the team or not, so I'll highlight him as well. The only other starter that they list here, though, for them is Chris Flexen, which he had a good year last year, but I'm not a believer. Neither, apparently, is Baseball Prospectus. 4.5, 1.37, 6.4, but that's to be expected. He's not a strikeout pitcher. So, yeah, I'm not going to target Flexen. Which I believe that leaves the Texas Rangers, and then we're done. The Rangers have made some big additions. Okay, catching-wise, they have Jonah Heim. Who's interesting, but I'm not... The thing about Jonah Heim that I always thought was kind of funny was I've never been a big believer in... Like, I'm not a big fan of Jonah Heim, but it seemed like when he was up with the... When he first came up with the A's, it seemed like every time I get a alert about Oakland winning a game, on like he'd be the one driving in the winning run. It was kind of weird. Yohel Pozo. That's an interesting name. Again, I don't know if he's going to make the team. So I'm going to highlight him. He could potentially be their second catcher, and he's definitely has a better offensive ceiling than Heim. Yeah, there's not too much to say about him. Just has a potential bat. Now, one thing that kind of bummed me out was I saw that they optioned Yanni Hernandez to the minors, which I like that guy. He was an on-base machine that could steal bases. For fantasy purposes, it sucks. I really wanted him this year. But, I mean, they've made big additions here. They're going to have Marcus Semien. What do they project for Andy Ibanez? A decent on-base percentage, 321. And only part-time at bats, which he might only get part-time at bats again anyway, but over a full season it'd be only 12 homers. He's somebody to keep an eye on, so I'm going to put him on here. Again, I'm looking for deals, mainly. Oops. And that's only over half of a season. I'm guessing he'll make the team, but I'm still going to highlight him. That's something I'll make sure to see later. They also got Corey Seager, who obviously big name. What do they project for Eli White? I'm not super familiar with a lot of their players now that I look at it. Eli White's not even listed on the main thing here. Was he with another team? No? Is he listed in the little part in the back? Let's take a look. Eli White. Ah, he is. Those are some interesting... That's interesting. I'm going to put him on the list. I'm not going to list his stats, though. Because I don't even know what to project him at. But he's definitely a stolen base threat. And again, we'll highlight him. It says that he's going to be starting for them, but man, I don't know about that. We'll highlight him, though. And now I'm just curious what they project for Willie Calhoun. Okay numbers. Nobody I'd go out and get. Okay, pitching. Last step. Then we're done. Now they do have John Gray, but I think a lot of people know about John Gray, so that's not a huge... and I'm not like the biggest fan of John Gray anyway. Yeah, they're projecting him to 3.96, 1.31, and 9. Yeah, there's not a lot of pitchers here that are inspiring me. I mean, Dane Dunning maybe. He's somebody I guess you could probably get cheap if you have to. So I'll put him in just because. Like John Gray, I think will go for more than he will be somebody I'm not willing to pay for. But Dane Dunning is an interesting player. He's 27. He can still put a lot together. Yeah, like I've got to look a lot of these guys up. Colby Allard. No, I don't want him. Glenn Otto is interesting just because he's got a good, that's a baseball name right there. And I'm going to put him on the list, actually. They're not projecting him to be too bad. Oops, Glenn Otto. See what it says about him. Nothing too descriptive about him, other than that he developed a new slider, and that's why he was a lot better last year. Although when he wasn't very good, he was great in the minors, but then he came up and started 6 games and had an ERA of 9.26. Jesus Christ. I don't know. I'll keep him in mind, I guess. And their bullpen is not going to do much to inspire me, that's for sure. Josh Spores? How do you pronounce that? I don't even know. He's not even listed in their thing. He's not even listed here. Apostle, huh? Yeah. Apostle's got power potential, but he's even in AAA, but he's still got a ways to go. Who is this? John King. They're projecting pretty good things for John King. Out of the bullpen, anyway. That's kind of the thing there. They're listing him as a starter, though. I'm going to put him down, too. These projections are for him in the bullpen, though. But, I mean, if he could... Even if he could keep an ERA under 4, like, as a starter, that'd be great. So, I don't know. I'll give him a shot. I'll try to keep him in mind. But that's about... I should probably also highlight... I mean... No, he'll make the team. I have no doubt of that. So, yeah. Those are my lists for guys that I'm looking to target for less than they should probably go for. If you stuck with me for this long, I don't even know why. Not like this was all that entertaining, but it was just something that I wanted to do to kind of get my thoughts in order. Here's the hitters. So yeah, I'm going to have to call it a night because I am hungry and I've got to get up for the work in the morning. So maybe this helped you guys. Maybe this helped somebody out. I doubt it. But like I said, with my new setup on my computer, I can't even see if anyone's actually watching. But the next time you see me, we will be playing more Shadowrun Returns. So, as usual, this is John Crate signing out.